In example 3, for math in real life, it tells us that you hike up a mountain trail at a rate of 1/4 mile every 10 minutes. You hike 5 miles every 2 hours on the way down the trail. How much farther do you hike in 3 hours on the way down than in the 3 hours on the way up? So it makes sense that if you're going down the hill, you're going to be traveling faster than going up the hill. Um, So it makes sense that we'd be going faster or covering more ground going down the hill. But to find out how much farther that you hike in 3 hours on the way down than in 3 hours on the way up, we have to find the difference between the two, which means we're going to have to subtract. But before we can do that, we have to find out how far we travel going up in 3 hours and then find how far we travel going down in 3 hours. So to do that, we're going to make, again, a ratio table, but this time we're going to separate them into up and down. So going up and going down. Okay, so going up, we know that we cover 1/4 of a mile for every 10 minutes. And then going down, I'm just setting them up, but I'll come back, setting up the ratio tables. First, we cover 5 miles for 2 hours. Now, I have to go ahead and work our way through here and turn our time into 3 hours on both of these. We're going to stick with moving up the mountain first. So I know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So to get to 60 minutes, to turn this into 1 hour, I'm going to multiply my 10 minutes by 6. That will get me to 60 minutes or 1 hour. And if I do it to the minutes column, I have to do it over here to the miles column. So, sorry, just had to get my notes. When I do 10 times 6, I get 60 minutes, which again is 1 hour. And when I multiply 1/4 times 6, I get 1.5. Ignore that. 1.5 miles per hour. And now that I have the unit rate, or how far I travel in 1 hour, I can go ahead and calculate for any time. And since they're asking for 3 hours, I'm going to multiply this number by 3 to find out the amount of space, the amount of ground I cover in 3 hours. So 1.5 times 3 becomes 4.5 miles. So now I know my rate for going up the mountain. Now we have to do the same thing for the down. So they've given me the time or the amount of traveled in 2 hours, but it's very hard to get from 2 to 3. So I'm going to work backwards and get to 1 hour, again, to my unit rate. And I do that by dividing by 2. So if I divide this side by 2 to get to 1 hour, I'm going to divide this side by 2, and I get 2.5 miles per hour. Now that I know how much for 1 hour, I can go ahead and multiply by 3 again to get to 3 hours, which is my goal. And 2.5 times 3 would be 7.5 miles. And again, I'm using decimals here on this side and fractions on this side, but either way, it's the same thing. 1/2 is 0.5 and vice versa. So now that I know that to go up the mountain takes, for 3 hours, I can cover 4.5 miles. And going down in 3 hours, I cover 7.5 miles. So to find out how much farther I hike in 3 hours on the way down than in 3 hours on the way up, I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to do 7.5 miles covered going down minus the 4.5. Again, a fraction of a half is the same as 0.5. It tells me that I cover 3 miles more traveling down the mountain than up, which again makes sense because always going downhill is much easier than going uphill.